Everyone, welcome. We do have a special bullpen interview with Agustina Vergara Cid. ICE and immigration officials continue to make headlines as unethical practices are rampant. This past week, of course, right here, we covered ICE agents who received a stern warning from Illinois Secretary of State Alexei Giannoulias. That was on Thursday after it was discovered that the agents were tampering with their license plates in order to avoid detection, according to a new report. Let's give you a reminder of that.
You may have seen this video recently on social media. It shows an ICE agent confronting someone filming a vehicle and saying,
"Don't call us anymore. You can record all you want.
I am.
Change plates out every day."
Well, I have a big problem with that. You see, swapping out Illinois license plates on Illinois registered vehicles is illegal. And as Secretary of State, I have zero tolerance for this type of illegal activity. We are investigating these allegations as we speak, and I'm asking for your help. Today, we're announcing a special plate watch hotline for people to report this type of illegal activity. Flipping license plates or altering them in any way to avoid detection is strictly prohibited in Illinois. Penalties include fines and potential jail time. Our office also has the authority to suspend or revoke the vehicle's license plates. And no one, including a federal agent, is above the law.
So you heard it there, stern warning from Alexei Giannoulias talking about those ICE agents and the accusation being that they are messing with their license plates to escape any kind of responsibility, accountability. Yesterday, we reported on an ICE agent who threw an elderly woman to the ground. This during a raid in Colorado. ICE recruits failing background checks, drug tests, fitness standards. Not only are they failing exams, they're failing open book exams. Not the best and brightest. Most common reasons for getting the boot were not clearing the fitness standards and being unable to pass an open book exam on legal issues. NBC said that nearly half of those sent home failed the test, which it described as an exam in which officers are allowed to consult their textbooks and notes at the end of a legal course on the Immigration and Nationality Act and the Fourth Amendment. And now this. California mother who accused an ICE contractor of sexual harassment was reportedly deported to Mexico last week. Here's more on that.
This mom of 8 was deported one day after accusing an ICE agent of sexual harassment. Sylvia Reyna Mendoza has emergency protected status in the U.S. after fleeing Mexico 40 years ago as a teenager to escape domestic violence. Now, according to Mendoza, an ICE contractor was harassing her with frequent calls, texts, and unwelcome sexually explicit images, including nudes and videos of him masturbating. The contractor also tried to solicit sexual favors from Reyna Mendoza, saying things like, "If you're good to me, I'll be good to you." The man in question was from BI Inc., an ICE contractor that was monitoring and overseeing Reyna Mendoza's open immigration case. When Mendoza tried to report the contractor, there was no follow-up, and the family said that there were attempts to delete evidence of her claims. This led Mendoza to seek a civil lawsuit against the company. But BI Inc. is a subsidiary of Geo Group, an enormous private prison that donated heavily to Trump's campaign and has since benefited enormously from his ICE raids. Mendoza's family claims that her deportation was direct retaliation for reporting the agent.
We have a lot to unpack there, including that case. To react to all of it and more, we have immigration law expert Agustina Vergara Cid, former immigrant turned immigration law expert. She holds a Master of Laws from the University of Southern California. Her writing has been published across many platforms and is a Young Voices contributor. So we are, Augustina, honored to have you on the show today, the Bullpen. Your reaction to these, just a few of these recent headlines?
Yeah, so I think that for an administration that claims to be for the rule of law and that is deporting hundreds and thousands of people because they allegedly broke US immigration laws, they certainly seem to have very little concern about respecting the rule of law themselves. We saw the Chicago official saying how nobody is above the law. And, they're trying to hold these ICE agents accountable who were swapping their license plates. That is precisely the rule of law. Nobody is above the law. Not you, not me, not ICE agents, and not the president of the United States. So everyone has to abide by the law including state laws. And federal agents do not have any sort of immunity that they can just go into a state and violate the law. They have to respect the law.
Yeah. So everything you just said is the truth. It's the facts. It's just black and white. These are the issues. These are the rules. These are the laws. But it seems as though, are they really laws if they're not going to be enforced? If people are going to just walk all over them, even disregard court orders. I mean, the immigrant community, those who are seeking status or have status in limbo or are just here trying to put in an honest day's work, support their families, secure a tiny piece of what is supposed to be the American dream. The fear is just rampant. And it seems as if this is what's printed in the law books, but it's not really being followed. What can be done?
Yeah, so I think a crucial issue with the rule of law is why do we have laws, right? And why do we have a government, really? We have a government, the proper role of government is to protect our individual rights. And when we have laws that do not do that, that are not protecting individual rights, those are bad laws. And the problem, part of the problem with bad laws is that they are really hard to enforce. Like, for instance, I don't think that coming to America to build a life, to work and to not harm anyone, just essentially try to engage in trade with other people here, I don't think that should be illegal. So it's hard to enforce that, and that's why, but like that is partly why we have so many illegal immigrants. Now, when it comes to laws, for instance, trying to like preventing a federal agency from detaining US citizens and holding them without like incommunicado for 3 days, like it has actually happened under the Trump administration. Well, those laws are there to protect the individual rights of Americans and other people on US soil. So those are good laws and those need to be enforced.
Let's say a family comes to you or a family member asking for help, guidance. In today's climate, again, we're covering these stories every day, multiple stories, multiple locations every day. What do you tell them?
So one thing I would have to do is to refrain from giving legal advice because that is only for lawyers to do. But the thing is that this is not just limited to immigrants anymore. So it could be anyone really trying to seek some assistance when it comes to ICE, right? Because what we've seen is there's a ProPublica report from a couple of weeks ago, which found that there are at least 170 US citizens who have been detained by ICE. Part of the claim is that many of them have been detained unlawfully. I am personally very familiar with a couple of such cases. But part of, I think, what needs to happen here is I see this footage of ICE agents, beating people to the ground, beating people bloody, detaining people for exercising their freedom of speech. I see it every day. So I think that is very uncivilized behavior. That is pretty barbaric what is happening. And in my opinion, a lot of that it's actually illegal. What I would advise against is engaging in more violence against ICE agents for several reasons. First of all, I think we have a judicial system that, yes, it is precarious and there are many problems with it, but a whole system designed to make it so we don't need to engage in violence to get retribution for our rights being violated. So what we do in those cases, and what many American citizens have been doing, is if something happens to us, we go to the courts. We use our constitutionally protected rights to defend our rights by going to court, right? And by exercising our freedom of speech. I don't think we should engage in violence against ICE agents. I don't like ICE agents, but I don't think they should be attacked. There should be violence because that also plays in the hands of the government, who says that all these people protesting or all the people that are being detained are terrorists or were obstructing law enforcement. So I would say if they are uncivilized, we don't have to be, because otherwise we are going to end up in a civil war.
No, I absolutely agree with you. And by and large, and perhaps it's anecdotal, the coverage has shown that people are not being violent against ICE. They're protesting, exercising their rights, taking to the streets, American citizens blowing whistles, warning people about imminent danger. ICE is on the block, so to speak. Do you believe Because, we had the one case there, a woman who said, look, I'm being sexually harassed. Next thing you know, she's deported to great peril, personal peril to her, back to Mexico. Do you believe that the courts can ultimately help rectify this situation?
There have been in the past cases when someone has been wrongfully deported, where someone that they have been brought back to United States. It's sort of rare. Also, of course, in the past there weren't that many such cases. I mean, as we are starting to see right now. I was also looking this morning at a case of someone who ended up being deported to by accident to a country where they are not from without the whole proper process to make that happen. And we have the case of Kilmer Abrego Garcia, who was wrongfully deported to El Salvador, and there's like a whole separate issue with that because he was imprisoned in El Salvador, not just sent there, where he was brought back. And of course, there's a whole saga with Kilmer Abrego Garcia, with the government essentially seeking retribution. But I think that yes, courts can potentially have a say in that. Now, unfortunately, courts are slow. So the damage that part of the damage that this administration is doing is a lot of this is irreparable damage that to some extent it won't be able to be rectified ever. But there are avenues and ways in which the courts can start to slow this down, and the Supreme Court has a big role in that eventually.
You ever, you're so close to this. You're not a lawyer, but you're an expert in a lot of these laws that are on the books and how they're being handled. Do you ever lose hope?
Look, I'm gonna get a little personal here because I became a U.S. citizen in July this year. Like, so we were already in the middle of this situation with the Trump administration. And the reason I decided to become a US citizen, and I had some people saying, like, are you crazy? Like, this is going, this is going to hell. Like, this is a bad situation in this country. It's because I still believe this is America. I chose to be an American. I chose to come here. I chose this country because I deeply admire the principles this country stands for: the protection of freedom, liberty, the pursuit of happiness. Those are things that are very unique to America, believe it or not. It does something trivial or abstract, but what's in the Declaration is actually really, really important to the identity of America and what America stands for. I don't think that one government, I mean, there have been several in the past too, but I don't think that the current administration can change that. I do think that this is still America, and I am doing all I can using my freedom of speech, guaranteed, protected by the Constitution of the United States, one of the most important documents in the history of mankind, to fight back against it using, legal means and speech. So I think that, Americans are seeing this, and I think many of us are a little slow to react, but I think that we are demanding better, and we are making our voice heard, and we are, telling this administration that we are not okay with this. And I think eventually, our Congress will step in, and I do think that hopefully, I am slightly worried about the situation in the Supreme Court, but I think that eventually they will stand up for what this country actually stands for.
Well, I certainly share your hope. There are people in my life who mean a great deal to me who I won't abandon them. I just won't. And if that means as an American, I need to step between danger, imminent danger, and them, good people who just deserve a chance. I keep telling them, this is not what this country is supposed to be about. I keep apologizing to them. But my last question to you is one of accountability. And I'm someone who believes that, yes, I want the situation rectified. And I can even move on with just that. That would be brilliant, right? But what about those who deliberately have just trounced all over that document that you talked about that should be held up and so sacred in this country, the Constitution? What about accountability once, hopefully, we're on the other side of this?
I think about this often, actually, because when I see what's happening, I think a couple things. I think this will be over, and hopefully soon. But this situation, this whole trampling of the Constitution and the rights of Americans and immigrants and everyone on U.S. soil, this will end. But then I think, what after that? I think after that will come a process where everyone that trample on the Constitution, that violated the rights of Americans and of immigrants, will have to face justice. They will be taken to court. And it won't be, a barbaric thing where like they won't get due process, like like undocumented people don't get. And it won't be, sending people to be imprisoned abroad. It will be like the Constitution mandates. People will get due process and they will get a chance to defend themselves in a court of law. And we will be okay with the outcome of that situation. And I think based on what we are seeing, I don't think the outcome of that situation is going to be very good for the people who are trampling on the rights of Americans right now.
Agustina, first of all, thank you, including for sharing your personal story. I think you're brave. I think you're sharp. And I think your kind of activism is necessary, including the warnings to not become what's being done to so many people. So we thank you for your appearance today. We wish you the best of luck.